focus on the music of the classical period. And I love the classical period. There's just so much amazing repertoire that was written during this time. And this time period, technically it lasted from about 1750 AD till 1820 AD. And there were loads of brilliant composers during this time. I wish I could tell you them all and talk about them all, but some of the more famous ones include Antonio Salieri, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, Joseph Haydn, Ludwig van Beethoven, Muzio Clementi, Franz Schubert, and many, many more. Now, the music in the classical period, we see kind of a shift in the musical style of this era. Coming from the Bach period, the classical composers would focus more on beauty and lyricism. They focused on more expressing their emotions through their music. And this resulted in great and beautiful music. And the first piece that I want to play for you today is by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. And it's not the stereotypical Mozart that we might think of when we hear Mozart. It's a little bit more somber and more melancholy. But regardless, I think it's a beautiful piece. And if you listen till the very end, you'll hear Mozart's characteristic jolliness show up at the end, showing that Mozart, he's still got that joy in him. So I hope you enjoy Mozart's Fantasy in D minor. more attentive among you, you may have noticed that this week I'm playing on a different piano. And you would be right. This week I received a 1984 Kawai grand piano from the Snowman Foundation. And it really has been an amazing piano. There's just so much more that I can do on a grand piano. It allows me to express myself more, and it just allows me to do what I want with it in a way that other pianos, an upright or electric, might not allow me to do. And I received this piano as a gift from the Snowman Foundation. Now, the Snowman Foundation is an organization that was started by Michael Alden Harrison about 2 decades ago, and it helps youth who might otherwise not be able to. It helps them to pursue music more. So they provide instructors and instruments to students who might not be able to otherwise afford those things. And again, was amazed that I was able to receive this, and I've really been enjoying it. Now, the next piece that I'm going to be playing is going to be Beethoven Sonata Opus 2 No. 2. So I'll talk about Beethoven a little bit more after the piece, but I hope you enjoy it. van Beethoven was an amazing composer. And although I said that he is a classical era composer, that's only true to a certain extent. His earlier works certainly are of the classical era style, but his later works serve more as a transition and the kind of precursor to the Romantic era. So it's probably more appropriate to say that Beethoven served as a bridge between the Romantic era and the classical era. Now, even though Beethoven was a genius, this did not come easily. There are stories that when he was a kid, his father would beat him when he was practicing if he made a mistake or if he hesitated. And that may seem cruel, but Beethoven is undoubtedly a genius, and we can enjoy his music even to this day. Even more incredible about Beethoven is that when he was 26 years old, he began to lose his hearing, to the extent that when he was 46, he lost his hearing completely. And so all the music composed in the latter decade of his life, he composed not being able to hear anything. And I think this is truly incredible that a composer could write such amazing music and not even be able to hear it. Now the next piece I'm going to be playing for you is also by Beethoven, and it is his Violin Concerto. And it really is an amazing piece. Sadly, it was not played much for a while until Joseph Joachim. He brought it back, and since then, it has been a truly classic piece. I hope you enjoy it. I mentioned earlier that the piano really grew in prominence during the classical period. But another genre that also grew quite a bit is the string quartet. Now the string quartet wasn't very popular before this era, and it was Joseph Haydn, often called the father of the string quartet, who really popularized it and made it to what it is today. The string quartet features 4 different musicians. You have a first and a second violin, a viola, as well as a cello. And what I love about this string quartet is that there are few enough musicians that there is a great deal of intimacy between the musicians. But there's also enough instruments that you can create a great variety of textures and colors within the music. And so today, the quartet that I'm going to be playing for you is by Franz Schubert, and it is his quartet, his string quartet number 13. I hope you enjoy.